Well, I hope you're enjoying so far. We're learning lots and lots about WordPress, and we've been creating posts here and formatting our posts and so on, and understanding how to publish our posts. But I want to take some time and I want to talk about some of the additional techniques and options that we have related to posting on our new blog. And the first thing that I want to talk about is editing your posts. Now, the great thing about WordPress is as you're working along, as you're developing your blog and creating more posts and so on, what's great is at any time you can go back and edit your posts. Even if those posts are a few weeks or a few months old, you can even go back and edit posts that are a few years old if you want. You can always go back and make changes and fix typos and things like this, right? That's what I'm going to show you now. And I'm looking at the dashboard interface of the admin backend for my WordPress blog. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to head over to the left-hand menu over on the side, and I'll expand the Posts menu. And I want to go ahead and click on Edit here. Okay, now I still have just the two posts that we've created here, or that we have here, inside our blog at this point. And I'm going to go ahead and click on the blog title here. And you can either click on the blog title or click on Edit. Don't forget, either will get you into this edit mode, into this edit view here. And once again, just give me a moment here. I'll expand things out so we can sort of have a better gauge at what's happening here. Now, here's what's interesting about editing your posts. We've already published this post, so it's already a part of our blog. It's already in our blog loop, don't forget. But what's neat is I can come in here and I can make changes, and it's not going to republish the post or anything like this. It's not going to change the order of the post inside our blog's loop. All it's going to do is simply update the post where it resides inside our WordPress loop, if that makes sense. Now, let me show you some quick examples here. What I could do is I could come in and perhaps change the post title if I wanted to. Welcome to my blog. Well, maybe I want to change that to Welcome to Jeff's new blog. Something like this, or maybe Welcome to Jeff's blog. Something like that, right? Whatever change you want to make, as simple or as complex as you want here. Below that, maybe I decide I want to change my permalink. Well, we already clicked on this button and we saw what that did. Well, we'll talk about changing permalinks in just a little while. Furthermore, I could scroll down into my post here and I could actually make some changes if I wanted to. Remember, we set this guy to be was it a heading 2 or a heading 3, I believe? Well, we could go and change that if we wanted to. We could pop open that kitchen sync toolbar, remember, using this icon here, and there he is. He's a heading 3. So I'll drop down this menu here and I'll switch him back to a paragraph perhaps, and maybe what I'll do is I'll pull that piece of text back up onto the previous line, maybe something like this, and maybe I'll make some other changes to my post here. I'm keeping it really simple here, but you can again make this as complex or as intricate as you like here. Maybe what I'll do is I'll get rid of this copyright notice here down at the bottom as well. Come in here, make your changes, make whatever changes you want, and then once your changes are complete, notice over in the top right, we don't have a publish button. We now have an update button. So I'm going to go ahead and click on update. And of course what happens here is WordPress goes ahead and updates my post for me. So you can see here in yellow up across the top, my post has now been updated. Well, of course, now I'm curious to see how my changes look on my live blog. So I'll go ahead and click on preview changes. And inside the new browser tab that opens up, of course, I can go and take a look at the changes inside my post. And again, I kept them pretty simple here, but in the real world, you might apply some formatting, you might apply some CSS rules, maybe add in some media like videos and perhaps audio files and graphics and things like this. I'm just trying to give you a sense of how this would work here anyway. Okay, now I want to show you something else here that we can do. This is called inline editing, and this is what I want to show you next here. So I'm going to close out of this tab here, head back to this edit mode or edit view in the back end. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go back to the edit view. So over on the left-hand side there, go ahead and click on edit, and we'll see if we can get this to work here. You and I both know that we can already click on our post's title or on the edit link to get back to that edit screen. Well, we have this quick edit mode, and this will let me edit my post inline. So go ahead and click on that guy, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about here. If I scroll down a little bit, here what I have is I'm still inside this edit post screen. What I mean by that is I'm still inside that edit post view. If I scroll down, I can still see that hello world post there. But above that, I can use this quick edit function to go ahead and edit the Welcome to Jeff's blog post if I want to. So I might come in here and, I don't know, maybe change this back. Welcome to my new blog, something like this, like we had before. There's the slug, as they call it, or the permalink there. The date. I could password protect it. A lot of the same settings that you and I have already seen, just in a slightly different view, right? We can allow those comments, allow the pingbacks if we want, change the status of our post. We can make that post sticky. Do you remember that option? And remember we had the categories option as well. So I'd come in here and I'd make my changes. I can't change the actual content of the post, though, in this sort of quick view or this quick edit mode. But once I'm done making my changes here, I can go ahead and click on Update Post. And of course, that updates the post for me in line inside the Edit Posts view inside the WordPress backend. Next up, I want to show you something very cool, adding in something called a more tag or a more link. Let me sort of explain exactly what I'm talking about, and then we'll actually go and add this into one of our posts. As always, what I'm going to do is I want to preview my live blog. So I'll hold down Command here on the Mac or Control on the Windows side, and then go ahead and click on that Visit Site button up in the top left corner of your dashboard. And of course, inside a new browser tab or a new browser window, your live blog appears. Now, no doubt you've seen this on other blogs in your travels where you're surfing around and you come to a blog, and rather than that blog showing the full post on the front page of the blog, it might just show perhaps the first paragraph or two of the post, and then they'll have a link that says something like click here to read the rest of this post, or click here for more, you know, that sort of thing, right? Well, that's exactly what we're talking about here. And this does start to sort of gradate, if you will, into blog customization. So if you don't want your blog posting the full posts, or displaying the full posts, I guess I should say, on the pages inside your blog, you can set up this sort of this basic customization. So let's give this a try and see how it works. Okay, so I'm going to go and close out of this preview tab and head back into my dashboard. Over on the left-hand side, make sure to expand the Posts menu, and then go ahead and click on the Edit sub-item there. And then go ahead and click on the Welcome to My New Blog post. Go ahead and click on that guy. And of course, that brings us into this editing mode here. And once again, I'll just expand things out a bit so we can see what's happening. There we are, something like this. Now, as far as adding in this thing called a more tag or a more link, you can add this tag in wherever you want inside your post. So if I just scroll down a little bit here, perhaps I want to add it just before my bulleted list, or maybe I want to display that bulleted list on the sort of the opening page of my blog, and then after that bulleted list, I want the more link to appear, right? So you can have this tag show up wherever you like. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually add this just above my bulleted list. So what I'll do is I'll just place my insertion point, my cursor there, just after the sentence will also be, and then we have that full colon there. And then go ahead and hit Enter on your keyboard. And then up on your toolbar, now not on the kitchen sink toolbar, which I still have turned on here, by the way. I'm going to go and turn that guy off just for simplicity's sake. But on the regular standard formatting toolbar, that's what we're after. It's this guy right here, Insert More Tag. Go ahead and click on that guy. And something kind of strange happens inside our post. We get this sort of horizontal rule showing up with a little piece of text there reading more. That's it, really. That's all there is to it. So now that we have this more link added into our blog post, let's go and check it out on the live site. So don't forget, we have to update our blog post before we go and preview everything. So if I scale back my browser window here, I'll just go ahead and click on Update there, of course. In the top right corner, go ahead and click on that guy. And of course, WordPress will tell you that your post has been updated. All right, let's go and see what we get here. So once again, that visit site link way up in the top left of your admin interface, go ahead and command click or control click that fella. And of course, that'll bring up your preview tab here. I'll just flip over. And there we are. I'm just going to scroll down a little bit. Welcome to my new blog. There's the first paragraph, and then there's our more link or our more tag. And this is extremely cool. So if I go ahead and click on this, then what that does is that actually links me up to the actual blog post, and it actually scrolls me down to where I had left off reading. In other words, let me explain what's happening here. I'm just going to back up here one screen inside my browser window. Let's say, for example, someone comes to my blog and they start reading this post and they read all the way through the first paragraph and they get to the end of that and they want to continue reading. Well, they can click on this link here, and that link not only takes them to the blog post, the full blog post, I should say, but it drops them right into the post where they had left off reading. In other words, if I scroll up, there's that previous first paragraph that the visitor had presumably already read. So there you go. So as you can see, adding in a more link is extremely easy. It's extremely straightforward. It adds a lot of usability to your blog as well. And once again, if I back up here and go back to where you and I just were, below that more link, of course, we still get posted in and then some metadata here. There's the uncategorized, we can edit it, and no comments, just like we had before, right? So once again, if you want to add in that more link inside your edit post screen, I'll just expand this out here a little bit. All we did is we clicked where we wanted that more link to show up, we hit enter, and then it was this fella right here, this insert more link icon on the formatting toolbar. If you want to get rid of these guys, all you do is you just single click on it there. You can see it selects as an object, and then you can just hit your delete key if you'd like to get rid of that. Now, I don't want to get rid of mine, so I'm just going to undo that. I just hit Command Z or Control Z on the Windows side to undo one step. So there you go. There's your more link or your more tag inside WordPress. So far, you've seen how to create posts with WordPress's visual editor, whether you were aware of it or not. So the post that we created, we simply pasted in some text, or perhaps you typed in some text on your own, and we created a bulleted list, and we did some simple formatting and so on. But there's another way to go about creating posts in WordPress, and that is by using WordPress's built-in HTML editor. So in other words, if you're comfortable with HTML, and if you're even comfortable with CSS, then you can actually code your posts by hand. Or what you could even do is you could create some posts or create some of your post elements in an external HTML editor, perhaps a program like Dreamweaver, and then you could take the HTML code and the CSS code that gets created for you over in Dreamweaver, and then you can simply copy it and then paste it into a new post here in WordPress. It's pretty cool stuff. It's pretty flexible. So let's take a look at exactly how all of this is going to work. So I'm looking at my dashboard right now, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that the Posts menu over on the left-hand side is expanded, and then I'll go ahead and click on Edit. And before we actually go and create an HTML post that uses the HTML editor here in WordPress, I want to show you how you can use the HTML editor to edit some existing posts that we already have. So once again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to head back to this welcome to my new blog post, the single post that you and I have created so far together. All right, and as always, I'm just going to expand out my browser so we can see exactly what we have here. So this area here where you and I have been editing and formatting our posts, and you and I just added in that more tag, for example, this is the visual editor. And the toolbar running across the top is the toolbar for the visual editor as well. But of course, as I say, we can use WordPress's HTML editor as well. I don't know if you've eyeballed this before or not, but way up in the top right corner, we have two tabs, Visual and HTML. And quite honestly, I find myself flipping back and forth between these two guys, depending on what I'm doing. But we haven't seen the HTML editor yet, so go ahead and click on the HTML tag there, and all of a sudden, we're thrown into this HTML editor here inside WordPress. I'm just going to scroll down a bit so we can actually see what we have here. Now, what I'd like to do here is I want to sort of tour you through this and kind of explain a couple of things here. First of all, our bulleted list. Notice that our bulleted list no longer looks like a bulleted list. It's now coded as a bulleted list using HTML. Now, if you don't know HTML, by the way, don't worry here. It's pretty simple stuff. It's pretty straightforward stuff. HTML is not rocket science by any stretch of the imagination. So, for example, what I have here is HTML's UL element. So that stands for an unordered list. That's our bulleted list, right? And then each of our list items, for example, is contained inside a list item element. That's the LI. And if you're brand new to HTML, how it works is most elements have an opening tag, the LI, for example, and a closing tag, which is always preceded by that / there. So anyway, there's a look at our unordered list, our bulleted list, in code view, if you will. Now, what's interesting to note as well is that more tag. This is what the more tag looks like in HTML. So back in our visual editor, remember it was that horizontal line and it had the more text there down on the right-hand side. Well, in HTML view, it actually looks like an HTML comment, if you're familiar with HTML comments. I'll scroll down just a little bit here and we have even more code. For example, there's our center-aligned paragraph. We'd love to hear what you have to say. And don't forget that paragraph was also italicized, wasn't it? As indicated by the M element, right? That's code for italics or emphasis as it's known in HTML. And then we have another center-aligned paragraph, which is also italicized, which also has a hyperlink. Now let me just select this hyperlink here. Remember way back, you and I had set up this piece of text, this paragraph, to be clickable. We set it up to be a hyperlink, right? So as you can see, there's the link. It opens with A for anchor, and then href, hyperlink reference, equals, and then remember I had you type this in, mail to, and then your email address, and then !, subject equals, and then that was our subject line in there, right? So what we're seeing here again is this code view, almost this back-end view, if you will, for our post. And if you're comfortable with this, you can actually code in HTML in this view, or as I started off saying, you could actually take some code that was created somewhere else, perhaps in Dreamweaver, and simply copy it and then paste it into this view. So at this point, what you might want to do is compare the HTML tab here at the top, the HTML editor, with your visual editor. And again, if you don't know HTML or if you're just getting up to speed with HTML, this is a great way to kind of catch on and sort of get yourself up to speed in terms of how things look back and forth between the visual mode, the visual editor, and your built-in HTML editor. Okay, so hopefully you're pretty comfortable going back and forth between your visual editor and your HTML editor. And I'm assuming that you haven't made any changes to your post either. If you have, make sure to click on Update in the top right corner. I haven't made any changes to my post here, so I don't need to save them by clicking on that Update button. But what I want to do with you now is I actually want to go and create an HTML-based post, or I want to go and create a post that utilizes the HTML editor here in WordPress, and we'll be sure to do a little bit of HTML hand coding here as well so you can see exactly how this works. So here's what I'm going to do. over underneath the Posts menu, I'm going to go ahead and click on Add New. So you and I are about to create a brand new post here. And by the way, I get this warning here. WordPress thinks that I've made changes to this post, and I haven't. What I could do, though, is I could click on Cancel and then make sure to click on Update there in the top right corner. Or if I'm pretty sure I haven't made any changes, or if I want to discard my changes, I can just click on OK. And I'm glad that this came up because I've been waiting for this dialog box to come up because I did want to talk about it. So whenever you navigate away from a WordPress page that possibly has changes on it, WordPress is going to ask you what you want to do about it. Anyway, hopefully all good there. Okay, so back to creating our HTML post. So here's what I'm going to do inside our new post. I'm going to start off by adding in a title for our post. And again, I'm going to keep it really simple and really generic here. I'm going to call this, Here's a Post Using the HTML Editor. Okay, wonderful. Now, notice down below the title field that we're still inside our visual editor. So I'm going to make sure to flip over to my HTML editor now. And as a quick aside, notice, of course, that your permalink shows up just below your title there. All right, now we can actually start working with the HTML editor. So for example, what I might do is I could type in some HTML code here. I could type in an open angle bracket followed by a P and then a close angle bracket. And if you know your HTML, you know that that's a paragraph. And I could type in something like, here's the opening paragraph for my new HTML based post. Something like this. One of the most important things about HTML is that when you open an element, you've got to remember to close it. So I'm going to hit open angle bracket again, / P, and then close angle bracket. Now, as a quick aside, if you're an HTML veteran, I mean, this is pretty rudimentary stuff, right? Really, I'm doing this for those who are watching who really don't know much about HTML, because I know that there's a lot of people out there that still struggle with HTML. So let's say we have something like this, right? And then maybe what I decide to do below that is maybe I'll hit enter once or twice, and then maybe I decide I want to do a list. Perhaps this time I want to do a numbered list, right? So what I would do is I would hit open angle bracket, and I would say OL for ordered list, so UL for a bulleted list, OL for a numbered list, close angle bracket, and then here's my little trick, by the way, whenever I'm hand coding HTML, is I usually hit enter a few times, and then I go and close the tag that I just opened, right? So I don't forget, because I'm kind of forgetful that way. So anyway, so I just opened an ordered list, and then I went and closed it. And then I'll move my cursor up just below that open OL tag. And let's go and throw in some quick list items. So I'm going to hit open angle bracket, LI, close angle bracket, and you can type in whatever you want. Again, I'm just kind of keeping this generic for us here. I'll type in item 1, and then I'll close my list items. So open angle bracket, / LI, close angle bracket. I'll move my cursor down, and let's go and throw in one more list item. So open angle bracket, LI, close angle bracket. I'll type in item 2, and then close my list item, open angle bracket, / LI, close angle bracket. Of course, when you're hand coding HTML, copying and pasting sure does come in handy here. This is a really, really, really simple example of using your HTML editor. But in any regard, let's see what we actually get here. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and collapse down my browser so we can see the right-hand side here, the top right here. As you know, you can save this as a draft if you want, or you can go and publish them to your live blog. Let's go and publish them. So I'll go ahead and click on Publish. And then, once again, I'll use my Command key or the Control key on the Windows side, hold that fella down, and click on Visit Site up in the top left corner. Here's our blog. I'll just scroll down a little bit here. Here's our new post right there. Here's a post using the HTML editor. There's our opening paragraph, and there's our numbered list. Did you survive your HTML hand coding experience there? Hopefully you did well here. Okay, now there's lots more that I want to show you here. I'm still looking at the preview tab here inside my web browser, but of course I'm going to go ahead and close out of that tab and head back into my edit post screen. And as always, I'll just expand this out so we can sort of have a better view of our post here. Now, you don't have to hand code everything inside this HTML editor. You may have eyeballed the toolbar running across the top of the HTML editor, and it looks very different from the formatting toolbar that we had back in the visual editor. So what I can do, for example, is I might decide that I want a certain piece of text to be formatted. Well, I could simply select that piece of text and then use my bold or my italics buttons up on the formatting bar, right? And if I do so, what winds up happening is the selected content now appears inside a strong element in my bold example, or it would appear inside an emphasis element in the case of italics, right? So you can certainly make use of that. You can set your hyperlinks, so you don't have to hand code your hyperlinks if you don't want. And there's all sorts of other options here as well. We have block quotes, and we have images, and there's our lists, and so on and so on and so on, right? So you can certainly check out those guys if you want. But what I want to do at this point is I want to go and grab some better content than what you and I had hand typed in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go and hide my browser just for a second and go all the way down to my desktop. So go ahead and minimize your browser. Head into your project files folder there on your desktop, and inside your project files folder you'll find a file called htmlpost.txt. Go ahead and double click on that guy, and what we'll do is we'll take the contents of this file and copy it and then paste it into WordPress. So make sure you select all of your text there, and then copy it, Command-C here on the Mac or Control-C over on the Windows side, and then head back to your web browser. And we're still inside our new post, of course. We're still editing our new post. All I'm going to do is select all of the content that you and I had hand-coded in and simply delete it and then paste, Command-V or Control-V. Perfect, something like this. Okay, great. Now at this point, you could update your post if you wanted to, or you could go ahead and hand code in some more HTML. Let's do a quick example here. I'm just going to hit enter a few times after the bottom edge of my paragraph there. And let's see here. I'm going to open up a paragraph. So open angle bracket, P, and then close angle bracket. And then what I'll do is I'll type in, if you'd like to learn HTML, VTC has a course on the subject. Okay, and then don't forget to close your paragraph. So open angle bracket /P and then close angle bracket. Okay, now let's do a little bit of formatting to this paragraph here, this new extra line inside our post. Let's start off by aligning him in the center of our post. So what I've done here is I've placed my cursor just after the P in the opening paragraph tag, put in a space, type in the word align, equals, open quote, and then type in the word center, and then close quote. Okay, perfect. Now, the next thing that I want to do is I want to make the text VTC, I want to make that a hyperlink. And of course, we could use our link button up on the toolbar there. You can use that guy if you want. But I think instead what I'll do is I'll hand code my hyperlinks. So just before VTC, what I'll do is I'll type in an open angle bracket and then A space href equals open quote, and then the URL, http://www.vtc.com. Close quote, close angle bracket. Okay, perfect. And then what I'll do is I'll just shuffle my cursor down the line just a little bit after the word VTC, or wherever I want my hyperlink to end, right? And I'll type in open angle bracket /A, close angle bracket. Perfect. Okay, great. Now we could go on and add in more things. We could add in another numbered list if we wanted to. We could add in headings and subheadings and all kinds of crazy stuff. But I think I'm going to leave it at this. I think this is kind of giving you a reasonable example of what's possible here inside the HTML editor. So let's go and view our results. I'll just collapse down my browser here. I'll click on Update over in the top right corner of the WordPress interface. And then, as always, Command or Control click the Visit Site link or button there in the top left corner. All right, there's our post with our text. There's our center-aligned paragraph down at the bottom of our post. Looks like I missed my period there. That's okay. And I'll go ahead and click on VTC. And I don't have my internet connection turned on right now, but you can see it did go to vtc.com. So there you go. There's some hand coding HTML for you and editing your HTML posts. You can always customize the way WordPress handles the new posts that you create. And you can do so by going ahead and adjusting WordPress's writing settings. And that's what we'll take a quick look at here. I'm looking at my dashboard here, obviously. And what I want to do is down towards the bottom left, I'm going to go ahead and expand the settings category, the very last menu item there. And the guy that we're after is writing. So look for your writing sub-menu item, and that'll bring you into the writing settings field, or the writing settings screen, I guess I should say. Now, there's lots and lots to look at here. The first option here, size of the post box. What that is that's the size of the, you know when we were creating our posts not too long ago? Well, we had that body field, right? And that body field is actually pretty small. So what you can do is you can come here and you can increase the size of that body field, or that editor box, if that makes sense. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, check this out. So the default is 10 lines, right? Let's make some kind of a dramatic change. I'm going to change this to 50 lines, right? And what I'll do is I'll just scroll all the way down to the bottom. Whenever you make a change inside this screen, you have to click on Save Changes. So scroll all the way down to the bottom and go ahead and click on Save Changes. And WordPress goes ahead and saves up the customization that you and I just made. Okay, now check this out. I'm going to go over to the left-hand side, expand posts, and I'm going to click on Add New. Okay, now give me a moment here. I'm just going to expand things out here. As always, so we can see what's happening. This main field here is exactly what I'm talking about. If I scroll down here, look how huge this editor field now is, this main body field. It's massive, it's huge. Maybe it's too big, I don't know. But personally, I like a lot of elbow room when I'm creating my posts, especially my longer posts, right? And especially the posts that contain a lot of HTML, right? So give this a try, just so we really have this down. I'm going to scroll all the way back down underneath settings, and I'm going to go back to reading. Oh, sorry, it wasn't reading, it was writing that we wanted. Make sure you're in the writing screen there. And instead of 50 lines, maybe I'll cut that in half. I'll type in 25. And then don't forget, down at the very bottom of the screen, we have to click on Save Changes. Okay, so now the editor box is going to be 25 lines long. So, back underneath Posts, over on the left-hand side, let's click on Add New once again. And this main body field that we have here now is now half the height that it was just a moment ago. So it's entirely up to you how large you want to make this editing field. But as I say, I like mine nice and big, but that's just a personal choice. Okay, now let's go and take a look at some of the other options that we have back underneath settings. There we are. We're underneath our writing settings. Okay, some of our other options in addition to the size of our post box. Well, we have some formatting options. Convert emoticons like this guy and this guy to graphics or images within our post. So this is turned on by default. It's up to you. You can keep that turned on or you can turn it off. WordPress should correct invalidly nested XHTML automatically. That's not a bad idea to turn that guy on. So in other words, WordPress is going to automatically correct any errors inside your nested HTML. Now below that we have default post category. And we haven't talked about categories in much detail yet, but if I had several categories that I've already established for my blog, what I can do inside this area here is I can go and choose the default category that all new posts should be filed under. For example, one of the blogs that I run, I have a news and updates category, and that's my default category. So, in other words, if I forget to add on a category, or if I forget to apply a category for a post, I know that the post by default is going to wind up inside my news and updates category. I hope that makes sense. Anyway, when we get into categories, you might want to remember this option here and come back and set your default category. Below that, we also have our default link category. Again, we haven't talked about links too much. We know a little bit about our blog role, but again, you can choose your default link category here. So once we start talking about the blog role in more detail, and we start talking about creating links and link categories and so on, you may want to come back to this area and change that default link category. Okay, now below that we have some remote publishing options, which is extremely cool, by the way. So, to post to WordPress from a desktop blogging client or a remote website, you've got to set up these options here. Now, I don't do much remote publishing, but it is kind of cool. It's something that you might want to dig into here. It needs to use something called the Atom Publishing Protocol. So you might want to read up a little bit more on that, but it is possible to do it. And even cooler, if I continue scrolling down, we can actually create new posts via email, which is extremely cool. Again, not something that I've dug into too far myself, but it is possible if you want to dig into that further. And of course, all the way down at the bottom, don't forget, because people always forget, they don't click on Save Changes, so they wonder why their customizations have not been applied to their blog. Okay, so there's a look at the writing settings. Did you know that you can actually password protect the posts on your blog? Now, obviously, you wouldn't want to password protect all of your posts, or I don't know, maybe you would. I have no idea. But you can password protect some of them, at least. And what's very cool about this is you can either apply a password to a new post that you're creating, or you can go and password protect an older post if you wish. It's entirely up to you how you arrange all of this. So I think as my example, what I'll do here for you, just sort of for the sake of time and simplicity, is I'll show you how to password protect an existing post. How does that sound? So here's what I'm going to do. Over on the left-hand side, I'm going to expand my posts menu, and I'll make sure I'm inside my edit screen, this view here. And the very first post that you and I created, this welcome to my new blog, go ahead and click on that post's title, and we'll go and edit this guy. Okay, here's what I'm going to do. Over in the top right area, right beside the visibility public, this area right here, go ahead and click on edit. All right, now you might remember some of these options from earlier. We had the sticky post, stick this post to the front page, password protected, and private. So, of course, the option that you and I are after is password protected. Okay, fantastic. Now, inside this password field, what I'd like you to do is type in your super secret password. I'll type in password because the bad guys would never, ever suspect that that would be the actual password. Okay. Fantastic stuff. Very easy, too, by the way. Notice, obviously, that there's no username required. It's just a password that's going to be required to go ahead and view this post. So now that we've changed the password here, or I'm sorry, we've applied the password to our post, go ahead and click on the update button there over on the right-hand side, and that, of course, will update our post, right? Okay, now how do we know that this actually worked? Well, the only way to know that this actually worked is to go ahead and preview our live blog. So, as always, I'll hold down Command, or you can hold down Control if you're on the Windows side, and go ahead and click on the View Site button there in the top left corner. That'll pop open your preview tab. There's our live blog. I'll just scroll down a little bit here, and here we are. Welcome to my new blog, but notice that the word protected precedes our post's title, and notice our post body, or the content of our post, has now been replaced with this. This post is password protected. To view it, Please enter your password below. Okay, so we've got to enter in our password here. Now, just to show you what happens here, I'm going to type in the wrong password, and then I'll click on submit. And what happens here is, well, a whole lot of nothing happens. If I scroll down again, for whatever reason it scrolled me back to the top of my blog. But if I scroll back down to my post, nothing happened. It didn't even give me an indication that I typed in the wrong password or anything like this. It simply won't let me into the post, right? Now, here in Firefox is asking me if I want to remember this password. I'm going to say never for this site, so hopefully we won't get that message showing up again. Okay, let's go and type in the actual password here, and we'll see if this works. I'll go ahead and click on submit. Okay, that lets me into the post. If I scroll down, I can read the post content. There's that more link. So the more link is still established here with our password protected post. And that's really all there is to it, to password protecting your blog posts. Now that we have a password protected post, you may find yourself in a situation where you want to get rid of that password. You no longer want that password applied to your blog post. How do you do that? How do you remove a password from a post? Turns out it's really easy stuff. I'm going to go and close out of this preview tab, which of course takes me back to the edit post screen in the back end of my blog. And what I'm going to do here over in the right hand side there, underneath the publish module or within the publish module, the visibility is telling me that this post is now password protected. I'm going to go ahead and click on edit. And rather than making this password protected, I'm going to switch this now to public, or I suppose I could make it private if I wanted to, but I'll make it public and I'll go ahead and click on OK, and then of course update post over on the right hand side. Okay, let's go and check out the live blog. Hold down Command or Control there on the Windows side and click on View Site in the top left corner. Inside that preview tab, go ahead and scroll down. There's the post restored to its original state. So it's not preceded with that protect text there inside the blog title. There's the more link. Everything's functioning here. If I click on that blog title to go into the post, I'm not met with any sort of a password restriction or a password field or anything like this. So it's now an open public post.